The bug is actually here where we use a width of 2 and a height of 2. If you go to QuadBatch, Control F, that's the reason I have this line of code in here. You want to make sure that the width and the height are 1. In fact, to be really safe, let's just do this. In fact, what we might want to do, go up to the top. This is an instance where we would want pixel to be private, and then use a get and a set to make sure that whatever we set pixel to is going to be valid. We'll just go right here, say public, move this down to here because this is the first time we're going to use it where our drawing line stuff is. Draw strings are just above that, so all these primitive drawing stuffs are down here. So we'll just put it down here, and we'll make a public getter setter, rectangle, pixel, in all caps. Get will return pixel, and set will say pixel equals value, and we'll say pixel.width has to be 1, pixel.height has to be 1. Okay, and then to save space, I'll just squash these. So you could squash it like this, or you could be really crazy and do like I do. So here in game 1, change this to dot pixel. And even though this is 2 and 2, it's actually going to be 1 and 1. So even if we use the version where we specify draw line, new rectangle, this line will be a bit thicker because by default it's too wide. We'll test it out. Looks good. So you might be wondering why that wouldn't work. I'll explain it. The reason that would be a problem is because to draw the line, what we're doing is assuming that the pixel is a 1 by 1 rectangle, and then we're scaling it this delta length distance in the horizontal direction and then rotating it right here. And if we scale it and it's 2, then what it's doing is it's multiplying 2 times the length to scale it. So then the length of the line is going to be twice as long as it should be, and 3 times as long if the width of pixel was 3. So we can't do that. It's got to be 1 by 1, and this set right here will ensure that it is 1 by 1. Okay, let's test out another one. We'll do a gradient, we'll do a distorted gradient colored quad, and we'll say draw color quad. I could make a default pixel version of this too, but I guess I'll just copy this here. You could even store this rectangle. In fact, I'll do that right now. I'll say rectangle x is equal to, then that way I can put as many in here as I want, and I can just say pix. New vector 2, I don't know, 50, 100. The one on the right side, we'll put it at, say, 500. Put it down slightly, so 150. Next one will be to the right slightly and down quite a bit. And the last one will be on the left, bottom left-hand side. So let's make it a little wider along the bottom and down even more. So put that at 0 and 600. Top left-hand color, we'll use red. Right-hand color, we'll say green. Bottom right-hand color, we'll say purple. Now we'll say blue. And the left hand, we'll say purple. Let's check it out. Okay, we just created a quad. You can make 3D versions of these quads too. It's actually not too complicated at all to mix 3D and 2D together. I can show you how to do that at some point. Okay, let's test out another one. We could try transformed ones, which are going to be used with MeoMotion. So this is for pre-transformed vertices, something you've already manipulated. MeoMotion will do all the manipulation of the vertices, so this would be ideal with that. So source rect, we'll say, so we'll use sheet 1, which if you look here, it's going to be the grass as a source rect. These operate in a way that they would rotate around the center, but this assumes that the rotation is already done. Scene origin would be the center of where it's to be located. These are actually offsets from the center, and I don't think those are going to be correct. Okay, so these should be offsets from the center. Minus 128, minus 56, 128, minus 56, 128, and positive 56, to minus 128, positive 56. It works. Alright, of course, this is not normally what we'd use to draw tiles. I'm just demonstrating how this particular one is working. So if we wanted to distort this, we could say 200 minus 80. Should distort at the upper left-hand corner. And we'll test out maybe draw color distort. This one's a little more complicated. It allows you to draw your tile at a location with distortion, rotation, and colors applied. The second version, if you tap down arrow, that's where your various colors come in if you want to use more than one color. So our source, in this case, so our source we can just copy from up here. We'll use grass again. And this time we'll put it at, oops, new. Let's put it at 100, 100. The option of scaling it. I'm just going to say vector 2.1. Regular scaling. We'll rotate it. Sure, we'll rotate it. Say 0.1f radians. So for offsets, we could use no offsets, which would be vector 2.0, in which case we should be using a different draw call. But if we do want offsets, this is the one to use. So if we want to distort this, say -10, -5. And this would come in handy if you had something dynamic which was distorting some of your corners of some of your images. Maybe something you might not use very often, but at least it's available. Bottom left hand side will be to the right a bit, and maybe up, we'll say. So not a whole lot of distortion. And we'll give it a color gradient blend. So what we'll do is on the top, we'll start off with a color solid. We can even fade it a little bit red on the right side. And on the bottom, we'll say new color, 0, 0, 0, and alpha 0, meaning it'll be totally transparent. On the bottom right side, instead of fading to black, we'll fade it to sort of a red color. Or we could fade it to dark blue, so it'll kind of go purplish in between. So red 0, green 0, blue will say 100 or 150, and alpha 0. So I'll put this on 3 lines so it's a little easier for you to see what's going on here. Top left hand corner is white, so it'll be solid regular color. Top right hand corner will be a reddish shade, sort of blackening out the green and blue channels. And then bottom left, or wait, this is bottom right hand corner actually, so I kind of have these backwards. Bottom right hand corner fades to a dark blue, so it'll go red to purple to dark blue, and the bottom left hand corner fades to just see-through, very dark see-through as it goes down. See how that works. Let's comment out this line first, and we'll test it again so we can just see what we just created only. So as you can see, on the bottom right side, it starts as a reddish shade on the top right hand corner, and it fades to a dark blue, so it kind of goes into a sort of a purplish shading and then dark blue and transparent as it gets to the corner. And the bottom left hand side, it just fades from a solid color to a dark transparent color. And this comes in handy when you want to blend tiles together in your scene in a unique way that gives it sort of a color grading effect, and you want to sort of fade the bottom of your vegetation into the scene. You may notice that the stars and the clouds are kind of blending into this image. So I changed these all to solid colors, no transparency, just to show that the only reason you're seeing it like that was simply because there's some transparency to the entire thing. If you wanted to fade the bottoms of this, I would have it so it only fades it a tiny little bit so that the majority of this is opaque and you don't have the stars showing through the tile image halfway through the tile. Okay, I paused it for a second, but I made this regular draw here, and this would just simply draw it normally, as you can see. And we could make a version where, or pick a version, this, where we can add rotation. For example, we could use this version, number 4, source rect, position, origin. We can just say null, so we're not specifying the origin because we just want to use the center. And we can use floating point for scale. Let's make it twice as big. And for rotation, we'll say 1.5f. And maybe we'll shade it so that's more yellow. So just as an example, let's test it. So we made it bigger, a yellower shade, and we rotated it a little bit. And we rotated it around the center by using null. We could say vector 2.0, and that would rotate it by the corner, just like SpriteBatch, which is how SpriteBatch works by default. Okay, that's it for QuadBatch examples. We can remove all of this. I just put this in here as test code.